The terms risk factor, good cholesterol, and bad cholesterol weren't always on the tip of everyone's tongue when it came to cardiovascular disease. But scientific evidence continues to correlate the relationship between good dietary habits, adequate exercise, and a healthy body. Conducted by what is now known as the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute in Massachusetts, the Framingham Heart study changed the way healthcare professionals and consumers alike regard the prevention of heart disease. In the 1940s, little was known about the general causes of heart disease and stroke. Most doctors thought a hardening of the arteries was a natural part of aging, and that rising blood pressure with age was not a serious issue. In 1948, researchers enrolled more than 5,000 participants between the ages of 30 and 62 from Framingham, Massachusetts. The participants returned to the study every 2 years for a detailed medical examination and lab tests. In 1971, the Framingham Heart Study enrolled a second generation, and in 2002, a third generation joined the study. The findings of these extensive long-term studies have revealed that high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, and LDL cholesterol in particular, are risk factors for heart disease. The study also identified lifestyle choices as factors which increase the risk of cardiovascular disease, including eating an unhealthy diet, remaining sedentary, and smoking. Researchers have now initiated the Framingham Nutrition Studies, which examine the connection between diet and nutrition to the risk and outcomes of cardiovascular disease. The link between good nutrition and good health is an undebatable scientific fact. Given the consequences of poor dietary choices and lifestyle habits, it's worthwhile to assess your current food and activity profile to determine areas for improvement. It's also important to remember that there are no quick fixes, but with dedication, hard work, and persistence, much can be accomplished. Are you willing to put forth the effort necessary to create change in your life? As you read this chapter, you'll be presented with tools and concepts to help you with this task. In the past, health was regarded merely as the absence of illness. Today, we focus on the idea of wellness, which is a state of optimal well-being that enables an individual to maximize their potential. Wellness includes a host of dimensions which affect one's quality of life, including physical, mental, emotional, social, environmental, and spiritual. Hundreds of years ago, when food was less accessible and daily life required much more physical activity, people worried less about obesity and more about simply getting enough to eat. In today's industrialized nations, conveniences have solved some problems and introduced some new ones, including the hand-in-hand obesity and diabetes epidemics. New dietary trends encourage those seeking to lose weight to eat healthy, whole foods first, while adopting a more active lifestyle. Many people seek out foods that provide the greatest health benefits. These are considered functional foods. Functional foods not only help meet basic nutritional needs, but also are reported to fight illness and aging. The Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics recognizes 4 types of functional foods. Group 1 is conventional foods. They represent the simplest form of functional foods. They're whole foods that have not been modified, and they include whole fruits and vegetables, yogurt and kefir, and dark chocolate. Group 2 are modified foods. These foods have been fortified, enriched, or enhanced with additional nutrients or bioactive compounds. A few examples include calcium-fortified orange juice, breads enriched with B vitamins, iodized salt, and cereals fortified with vitamins and minerals. Group 3 is medical foods. Medical foods are designed for enteric administration under the guidance of a medical professional. They're created to meet very specific nutritional requirements, and they include liquid formulas for people with kidney disease, liver disease, diabetes, or other health issues. Group 4 is special dietary use foods. These foods don't have to be administered under a doctor's care, and they can be found in a variety of stores. They address special dietary needs, and they meet the nutritional requirements of certain health conditions, and include gluten-free foods, lactose-free dairy products, and formulas and shakes that promote weight loss. Certain diet plans take the concept of functional foods one step further. by striving to prevent or treat a specific health condition. For example, it's widely understood that people with diabetes need to follow a particular diet. Although some of these diet plans may be nutritionally sound, use caution because some diets may be fads or be so extreme that they actually cause health problems. Before experimenting with a diet, discuss your plans with your doctor or a registered dietitian. The DASH diet focuses on reducing sodium intake to either 2,300 milligrams per day or 1,500 milligrams per day. It's an evidence-based eating plan that can help reduce high blood pressure and may also decrease the risk of heart attack, stroke, diabetes, osteoporosis, and certain cancers. DASH dieters eat lots of whole grains and high-fiber fruits and vegetables, and moderate amounts of low-fat dairy products, lean meats, and heart-healthy fish. DASH limits the use of saturated fats, restricts the consumption of sweets and alcohol, and calls for consuming less added sugar and drinking fewer sugar-sweetened drinks. It also calls for replacing red meat with fish and legumes and for increased calcium, magnesium, potassium, and fiber. Some of the tips to lower sodium included in the DASH diet are using spices instead of salt to add flavor, reading the sodium content on processed or canned food labels and choosing the low sodium options, removing some sodium from canned foods, such as beans, by rinsing the product before consuming, and avoiding salt when cooking. The gluten-free diet helps people whose bodies cannot tolerate gluten, a protein found in wheat, barley, and rye. It's prescribed for patients with gluten intolerance and celiac disease, an autoimmune disorder with a genetic link. A gluten-free diet finds replacements for bread, cereal, pasta, and emphasizes fresh fruits, vegetables, and other foods without gluten. The gluten-free trend has become something of a fad even for those without a gluten intolerance. Low-carb diets, which include the Atkins diet, South Beach diet, and ketogenic diet, focus on limiting carbohydrates, such as grains, fruits, and starchy vegetables, to promote weight loss. Proponents of this approach believe that because limiting carbs generally lowers insulin levels, it will then cause the body to burn stored fat instead. However, some studies have shown that people who followed certain low-carb diet plans for 2 years lost an average of nearly 9 pounds, which is similar to the amount of weight lost on higher carbohydrate diets. In other words, the results were the same, whether it was a high-fat diet or a low-fat diet, or high-carb, low-carb, the results were the same. The benefits of a low-carb diet include an emphasis on whole unprocessed foods and a de-emphasis of refined carbohydrates, such as white flour, white bread, and white sugar. Dieters using the low-carb approach tend to consume twice as many saturated fats as people on a diet high in healthy carbohydrates. Low-carb diets are also associated with a higher energy intake, and the notion that calories don't count, which is prevalent in this kind of diet, is not supported by the scientific evidence. The macrobiotic diet is part of a health and wellness regimen based in Eastern philosophy. Foods are paired based on their so-called yin or yang characteristics. Yin foods are thought to be sweet, cold, and passive, while yang foods are considered to be salty, hot, and aggressive. Whole grains make up about 50% of the calories, raw and cooked vegetables comprise about 30%, and bean or vegetable-based soups and broths can make up 5 to 10% of the diet. The macrobiotic diet prohibits certain foods such as chocolate, tropical fruits, and animal products. The macrobiotic diet focuses on foods that are low in saturated fats and high in fiber, which can help to lower the risk of cardiovascular disease. Proponents of this diet also believe that it may protect against cancer. Extreme macrobiotic eating can be low in protein, low in calories, and pose a risk for starvation. In addition, the diet is also very low in essential vitamins and minerals. The traditional Mediterranean diet incorporates many elements of the dietary choices of people living in Greece and southern Italy, and focuses on small portions of nutritionally sound food. This diet features food from plant sources, including vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, nuts, seeds, breads and potatoes, and olive oil. It also restricts the consumption of processed foods. Other aspects include consuming fish and poultry at least twice per week, eating red meat only a few times per month, having up to 7 eggs per week, and drinking red wine in moderation and with meals. Unlike most diets, the Mediterranean diet doesn't cut fat consumption across the board. Rather, it incorporates low-fat cheese and dairy products, and it substitutes olive oil, canola oil, and other healthy oils for butter and margarine. Research has shown that people who follow the diet have some of the lowest rates of chronic disease and the highest rates of longevity among the populations of the world. It also helps to decrease excess body weight, blood pressure, blood fats, and blood sugar and insulin levels significantly. The raw food diet. The principle behind raw foodism is that plant foods in their natural state are the most wholesome for the body. People who practice raw foodism eat only uncooked and non-processed foods, emphasizing whole fruits and vegetables. Staples of the raw food diet include whole grains, beans, dried fruits, seeds and nuts, seaweed, sprouts, and unprocessed produce. The positive aspect of this eating method include consuming foods that are high in fiber and nutrients and low in calories and saturated fats. The raw food diet offers little in the way of protein, dairy, or fats, which can cause deficiencies of the vitamins A, D, E, and K. In addition, some foods are healthier when cooked, like spinach and tomatoes. Also, cooking eliminates potentially harmful microorganisms that can cause foodborne illnesses. Vegetarian and vegan diets have been followed for thousands of years and for different reasons, including as part of a spiritual practice, to show respect for living things, for health reasons, or because of environmental concerns. Broadly speaking, vegetarians eat beans, grains, and fruits and vegetables, and don't eat red meat, poultry, seafood, or any other animal flesh. A vegan diet is the most restrictive vegetarian diet. Vegans don't eat dairy, eggs, or other animal products, and some don't eat honey. Well-balanced vegetarian and vegan eating plans can lower the risk of a number of chronic conditions, including heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. They also help to promote sustainable agriculture. However, if a vegetarian or vegan doesn't vary his or her food choices, the diet may be insufficient in calcium, iron, omega-3 fatty acids, zinc, and vitamin B12. Vitamins, minerals, herbal remedies, and supplements constitute big business, and many of their advertising claims suggest that optimal health and eternal youth are just a pill away. The main types of dietary supplements are macronutrients. Those are just amino acids, proteins, and essential fatty acids. Your micronutrients, those are vitamins and minerals. Probiotics, these are beneficial bacteria, such as the kind found in your intestines. And herbal supplements, which often target a specific body part, such as the bones. The following people may benefit from taking daily vitamin and mineral supplements: women who are pregnant or breastfeeding, premenopausal women who may need extra calcium and iron, older adults, people with health issues that affect their ability to eat, vegetarians, vegans, and others avoiding certain food groups. Vitamins, minerals, and other assorted remedies should be considered as extras. They're add-ons, not replacements, for a healthy diet. When considering taking supplements, it's important to recognize possible drawbacks that are specific to each kind. Also, remember that a supplement is only as good as the diet that accompanies it. Micronutrient supplements. Some vitamins and minerals are toxic at high doses. Therefore, it's vital to adhere to the tolerable upper intake levels so as not to consume too much of any vitamin. Some herbal supplements have side effects, such as heart palpitations and high blood pressure, and must be taken very carefully. Also, some herbs have contraindications with certain medications. Certain amino acid supplements, which are taken by bodybuilders among others, can increase the risk of consuming too much protein. Here are some helpful questions to explore before deciding to take a supplement. Does the scientific community understand how this supplement works, and are all of its effects well known? Is there proof that the supplement actually performs in the manner that it claims? Does this supplement interact with food or medication? Is taking this supplement necessary for my health? Is the supplement affordable? Is the supplement safe and free from contaminants? A well-rounded exercise program is crucial to become and remain healthy. Physical activity improves your health in a number of ways. It promotes weight loss, strengthens muscles and bones, keeps the heart and lungs strong, and helps to protect against chronic disease. There are 4 essential elements of physical fitness: cardiorespiratory endurance, muscle strength, muscle endurance, and flexibility. The essential elements of physical fitness. Building cardiorespiratory endurance through aerobic exercise is an excellent way to maintain a healthy weight. Regular moderate aerobic activity, about 30 minutes at a time for 5 days per week, trains the body to deliver oxygen more efficiently, which strengthens the heart and lungs and reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease. The most common standard for evaluating cardiorespiratory endurance is the VO2 max test. VO2 max is your maximal oxygen uptake. The higher your VO2 max, the more oxygen you can consume, and the faster or longer you can walk, run, bike, or swim, among other aerobic activities. Muscle strength and muscle endurance are 2 other essential elements of physical activity, not just for athletes and bodybuilders, but for children, seniors, and everyone in between. The support that your muscles provide allows you to work, play, and live more efficiently. Strength training involves the use of resistance machines, resistance bands, free weights, or other tools. If strength training is performed at least twice a week, it can help to improve muscle strength and endurance and to increase bone strength. Strength training can also help you to maintain muscle mass during a weight loss program. Flexibility is the range of motion available to your joints. Yoga, Tai Chi, Pilates, and stretching exercises work to improve this element of fitness. Stretching not only improves your range of motion, it also promotes better posture and helps you perform activities that can require greater flexibility, such as chores around the house. In addition to working on flexibility, older adults should include balance exercises in their regular routine. Some forms of exercise confer multiple benefits, which can help you to balance the different elements of physical fitness. For example, riding a bicycle for 30 minutes or more not only builds cardiorespiratory endurance, but it also improves muscle strength and muscle endurance. However, addressing fitness standards in all 4 categories generally requires incorporating a range of activities into your regular routine. Metabolic fitness relates to the number of calories you require to survive and the number of calories you burn during physical activity. The rate at which a person burns calories depends on body shape, body composition, sex, age, nutritional status, and genetics. One measurement of metabolic fitness is resting metabolic rate, or RMR, which is a measurement of the amount of energy required for the body to maintain its basic functions while at rest. On average, RMR accounts for between 50 and 70% of a person's total daily energy expenditure. Various factors can affect the RMR, and as a result, it's not a perfect measurement for metabolic fitness. Recall in a previous chapter that resting metabolic rate and basal metabolic rate are the same thing. A second measurement of metabolic fitness is the number of calories burned during physical activity. The amount of calories burned depends on the rate at which the heart beats, how much oxygen is delivered to tissues, and how efficiently metabolic reactions consume oxygen and burn calories. One of the best estimates of energy expenditure during exercise is how much oxygen a person consumes. Increasing your daily activity and shedding excess weight help to improve metabolic fitness. Regular physical activity is one of the best things you can do to achieve optimal health. Individuals who are physically active for about 7 hours per week lower the risk of dying early by 40%. Improving your overall fitness involves sticking with an exercise program on a regular basis. Physical activity not only helps maintain your weight, it also provides a wealth of benefits: physical, mental, and emotional. Physical benefits. Getting the recommended amount of physical activity each week, about 150 minutes of moderate aerobic exercise, such as power walking or bicycling, doesn't require joining a gym, wearing spandex, or taking expensive, complicated classes. Even slightly increased activity can lead to physical benefits, such as longer life, healthier weight, cardiovascular disease prevention, management of chronic conditions, energy boosts, and strong bones. There are mental and emotional benefits as well. The mental and emotional benefits of physical activity include improved mood, reduced risk of depression or limited symptoms of it, cognitive skills retention, and better sleep. A physically active lifestyle yields so many health benefits that it's recommended for everyone. Change isn't always easy, but even small changes such as taking the stairs instead of the elevator or parking farther away from a store to add a bit more walking into your day can lead to a more active lifestyle and set you on the road to optimal health. As you change to a more active lifestyle, select an activity that you can integrate into your schedule smoothly so you can maintain it. No matter what your preference, you're more likely to stick to a workout program if you enjoy it. Whatever activities people choose to do, if they expend an extra 500 calories per day, they'll lose 1 pound per week, become more physically fit, and maintain a healthy nutritional profile. The exact number of calories expended per hour will vary, depending on an individual's weight and level of exertion. It can be helpful to keep these numbers in mind when considering an aerobic activity. Walking at 2 miles per hour burns about 204 calories per hour. Bicycling, 292 calories per hour. Jogging, 606 calories per hour. Golf, 314 calories per hour if players carry their clubs. Ballroom dance, 219 calories per hour. And tennis, 584 calories per hour. Chronic diseases are ongoing, life-threatening, and life-altering health challenges, and they're the leading cause of death worldwide. They cause significant physical and emotional suffering and are an impediment to economic growth and vitality. It's important, now more than ever, to understand the different risk factors for chronic disease and to learn how to prevent their development. A risk factor is a signal that your chances for acquiring a chronic disease may be increased. Risk factors are not a 100% guarantee that a person will develop a chronic disease, only that the conditions are right. A risk factor indicates a correlation, not a causation. Chronic disease usually develops alongside a combination of the following risk factors: genetics, a prior disease such as obesity or hypertension, dietary and lifestyle choices, and environmental problems. Obesity is a risk factor for a number of conditions, including arthritis and certain cancers. Risk factors such as genetics and age can't be changed. However, some risk factors can be altered to promote health and wellness, such as diet. Making more healthy dietary choices can greatly reduce that risk. People without a genetic predisposition for a particular chronic illness can still develop it. Not having a genetic predisposition for a chronic disease is not a guarantee of immunity. According to the CDC, heart disease is the leading cause of death in the United States. This disease generally starts with atherosclerosis, or a hardening of the arteries. Arteries start to narrow and harden when fats accumulate along the inner walls and form plaques. A plaque is made of fat, cholesterol, calcium, and other substances found in the blood. Plaque formation causes arteries to narrow and harden, which elevates blood pressure. Higher blood pressure strains the heart and causes more damage. Arterial walls can become so weakened due to high blood pressure that they balloon and form what is known as an aneurysm. The plaques themselves can also rupture due to a spike in blood pressure, and the body responds by forming blood clots. A stable clot can slowly kill off surrounding tissue or grow so big that it blocks blood circulation and causes thrombosis. When a moving clot becomes stuck in an artery too small for its passage, it cuts off blood flow and causes cell death. This is referred to as embolism. Blood clots in heart and brain arteries can cause heart attacks or strokes. Diet and nutrition can play a significant role in reducing the risk of heart disease. It's helpful to lower sodium intake, increase consumption of dietary fiber, and limit consumption of saturated fat. In addition, it's important to replace refined starches and added sugar with whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. Emphasizing vegetable-based sources of protein can be beneficial, as well as consuming more soy products. It's also important to maintain a healthy weight, manage cholesterol levels, and avoid smoking or chewing tobacco. Chronic high blood pressure, or hypertension, is a significant health hazard affecting 1 out of 3 adults in the U.S. This chronic condition is a major cause of heart attacks and strokes, yet it has no symptoms until blood pressure reaches very high levels. The only way to find out if you have high blood pressure is to get an accurate reading of your resting blood pressure, which is best done by a medical professional and should be monitored regularly. Blood pressure readings consist of 2 numbers. The top number measures systolic pressure, that's when the heart contracts. The bottom number measures diastolic pressure, when the heart is at rest. The key blood pressure numbers to keep in mind are 120/80 or below is considered ideal. Pre-hypertension is higher than 120/80 and lower than 139/89. Hypertension is considered greater than 139/89. Steps to reducing the risk of high blood pressure. Techniques to reduce blood pressure include becoming physically active, maintaining a healthy weight, reducing sodium intake, using alcohol moderately, and following the DASH diet. Vitamin C, calcium, and potassium have all been shown to promote healthy blood pressure. It's also vital to monitor your blood pressure levels on a regular basis. More than 100 diseases are classified as different forms of cancer, all of them characterized by the uncontrolled growth of abnormal cells. Cancer is triggered by mutations in a cell's genetic material. The cause of these changes may be inherited, or it may result from exposure to carcinogens, which are agents that can cause cancer. Carcinogens include chemicals, viruses, certain medical treatments such as radiation, pollution, or other substances and exposures that are known or suspected to cause cancer. Under normal conditions, a healthy cell will either repair any damage that's been done or self-destruct so that no future cells will be affected. Cells become cancerous when their DNA is damaged, but they don't self-destruct or stop reproducing as normal cells would. As these abnormal cells continue their rapid growth, in most cancers they coalesce in a mass called a tumor. Cancer cells can also invade other organs and spread throughout the body in a process known as metastasis. Intervention at any of these early stages could prove to be quite beneficial because it's thought that most cancers are the result of lifestyle choices and environmental exposure. The risk factors for different cancers can vary. For example, exposure to UV rays from the sun and from tanning beds is a risk factor for skin cancer, while exposure to asbestos is a risk factor for mesothelioma cancer. According to the American Cancer Society, half of all American men and 1/3 of American women will be diagnosed with some form of cancer in their lifetime. The American Institute for Cancer Research has published guidelines for preventing cancer and staying healthy. These include several dietary and lifestyle choices, such as participating in physical activity for 30 minutes per day or more, maintaining a healthy weight, and consuming a plant-based diet. Several epidemiological studies have found a link between eating plenty of fruits and vegetables and a low incidence of certain cancers. Fruits and vegetables containing a wide variety of nutrients and phytochemicals may either prevent or reduce the oxidative damage to cell structures. Cruciferous vegetables, such as cauliflower, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts, may also reduce the risk of certain cancers, such as endometrial, esophageal, and others. Studies have also shown that the more fiber you have in your diet, the lower your risk of colon cancer. Vitamin D and antioxidants have been linked to lowering the risk of some cancers. However, taking an iron supplement may promote other types of cancer. Obtaining vital nutrients from food first is the best way to help prevent or manage cancer. Regular and vigorous exercise can lower the risk of breast and colon cancers. Wearing sunblock, staying in the shade, and avoiding the midday sun can reduce your risk for skin cancer. The World Health Organization reports that more than 346 million people around the world have diabetes. Diabetes mellitus is a metabolic disorder that results when the pancreas does not produce enough insulin to meet its needs, or the body does not effectively utilize the insulin that it does produce. The most common complication is hyperglycemia, and that's having elevated blood sugar, which gradually leads to damage in many of the body's systems, most notably the eyes, kidneys, the nerves, heart, and blood vessels. There are three kinds of diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition in which the pancreas doesn't produce insulin. Type 2 diabetes results when the pancreas produces enough insulin initially, but the body is unable to use the hormone properly. This is insulin resistance. Gestational diabetes is a condition seen in about 3 to 8% of pregnant women, and it's caused by a shortage of insulin or by pregnancy hormones. Unfortunately, type 1 diabetes is almost impossible to prevent. Although some clinical research suggests that breastfeeding an infant for at least 3 months may decrease the child's risk of developing this condition. However, people who are at risk for type 2 or gestational diabetes can take steps to avoid the disease. It's crucial to achieve and maintain a healthy body weight through regular physical activity. Proper nutrition is also vital, and it's important to restrict sugary snacks, beverages, and desserts, and to limit the intake of trans fats and saturated fats. In addition, those who are at risk should consume whole grains, legumes, fruits, and vegetables, along with 2 servings of non-fried fish per week. For people over the age of 45, it's important to have a glucose test every 3 years. In order to assess your health status, the following is recommended: early diagnosis through blood testing, blood pressure measurement, and blood lipid measurement. Food, the best medicine. Poor dietary choices and a sedentary lifestyle account for about 300 to 600,000 deaths every year, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. That's 13 times higher than the deaths due to gun violence. The typical North American diet is too high in saturated fat, sodium, sugar, and too low in fiber in the form of whole fruits, vegetables, and whole grains to keep people healthy. Making sound nutritional choices can also provide support for individuals undergoing treatment for short-term or chronic conditions. Sometimes called food poisoning, foodborne illness is a common public health problem that can result from exposure to a pathogen or a toxin via food or beverages. Raw foods, such as seafood, produce, and meats, can all be contaminated during harvest, or slaughter for meats, processing, packaging, or during distribution. For all kinds of food, contamination also can occur during preparation and cooking in a home kitchen or in a restaurant. In many developing nations, contaminated water is also a major source of foodborne illness. Each year, 1 out of 6 Americans become sick after consuming contaminated foods or beverages. Foodborne illness can range from mild stomach upset to severe symptoms or even death. Not only is it dangerous to your health, but it can also be harmful to your wallet. For example, medical costs and lost wages due to salmonella Whether you become seriously ill from a food illness depends on the microorganism, the amount you've consumed, and your overall health. In addition, young children, elderly people, and pregnant women all have a higher chance of becoming very sick after consuming contaminated food. Exposure to contaminated food could also pose problems for diabetics, cancer patients, people with liver disease, and people with stomach problems as a result of low stomach acid or previous stomach surgery. Foodborne illnesses are either infectious or toxic in nature. Microbes, such as bacteria, cause food infections, while a toxin, such as the kind produced by molds, cause intoxications. However the illness occurs, the microbe or toxin enters the body through the gastrointestinal tract, and as a result, common symptoms include diarrhea, nausea, and abdominal pain. One of the biggest misconceptions about foodborne illness is that it is always triggered by the last meal that a person ate. However, it may take several days or more before the onset of symptoms. According to the CDC, more than 250 different foodborne diseases have been identified. Most are food infections, which means they are caused from food contaminated by microorganisms, such as bacteria, parasites, or viruses. Food infections can be sporadic and often aren't reported to physicians. However, occasional outbreaks occur that put communities, states, and provinces, or even entire nations at risk. Bacteria, one of the most common agents of food infection, are single-celled microorganisms that are too small to be seen with the human eye. In order to reproduce within food, microorganisms require the following: a temperature between 40 degrees and 140 degrees Fahrenheit, which is called the danger zone. Bacteria grow rapidly at these temperatures. Time: more than 2 hours in the danger zone. Water: high moisture content is helpful. Fresh fruits and vegetables have the highest moisture content. Oxygen: most microorganisms need oxygen to grow and multiply, but a few are anaerobic and do not. Acidity and pH level: foods that have a low level of acidity or a high pH level provide an ideal environment for bacteria to grow and multiply. Since most microorganisms grow best around 7 pH and not many will grow below a 4 pH, examples of higher pH foods include meat, seafood, milk, and corn. Examples of low pH foods include citrus fruits, sauerkraut, tomatoes, and pineapples. Nutrient content is also important. Microorganisms need protein, starch, sugars, fats, and other compounds to grow. Typically, high protein foods are better for bacterial growth. Food intoxications are caused by natural toxins or harmful chemicals. These and other unspecified agents are major contributors to episodes of acute gastroenteritis and other kinds of foodborne illness. Like pathogens, toxins and chemicals can be introduced to food during cultivation, harvesting, processing, or distribution. Some toxins can lead to symptoms that are also common to food infection, such as abdominal cramping, while others can cause different kinds of symptoms and complications, and some are very severe. About 100 years ago, typhoid fever, tuberculosis, and cholera were common diseases caused by food and water contaminated by pathogens. Over time, improvements in food processing and water treatment eliminated most of those problems in North America. Today, other bacteria and viruses have become common causes of food infection. All foods naturally contain small amounts of bacteria. Poor handling and preparation of food, along with improper cooking or storage, can multiply bacteria and cause illness. Most bacteria grow undetected because they don't change the color or texture of food or produce a bad odor. Freezing and refrigeration slow or stop the growth of bacteria, but don't destroy the bacteria completely. The microbes can reactivate when the food is taken out and thawed. One of the most common bacteria causing food infections is Salmonella, which can spread to humans via a variety of different animal origin foods, including meats, poultry, eggs, dairy products, and seafood. Infection from Salmonella typically brings about fever, diarrhea, and abdominal cramps within 12 to 72 hours after eating. Usually, the illness lasts 4 to 7 days, and most people recover without treatment. The bacterium Listeria monocytogenes, commonly referred to simply as Listeria, is found in soft cheeses, unpasteurized milk, and seafood. It causes a disease called listeriosis that can bring about fever, headache, nausea, and vomiting. Listeria mostly affects pregnant women, newborns, older adults, and people with cancer and compromised immune systems. Another common bacterial infection is E. coli. Sources include raw or undercooked meat, raw vegetables, unpasteurized milk, minimally processed ciders and juices, and contaminated drinking water. Symptoms can occur a few days after eating and include watery and bloody diarrhea, severe stomach cramps, and dehydration. In young children, an E. coli infection can cause kidney failure and death. The bacteria Clostridium botulinum causes botulism. Sources include improperly canned foods, lunch meats, and garlic. Symptoms are seen within 4 to 36 hours after eating and can include nerve dysfunction, such as double vision, inability to swallow, speech difficulty, and progressive paralysis of the respiratory system. Botulism can be fatal. Campylobacter jejuni causes the disease campylobacteriosis and is the most commonly identified bacterial cause of diarrhea worldwide. Consuming undercooked chicken or food contaminated with the juices of raw chicken is the most frequent source of this infection. Other sources include raw meat and unpasteurized milk. Within 2 to 5 days after consumption, symptoms can begin and include diarrhea, stomach cramps, fever, and bloody stools. The food infection shigellosis is caused by Shigella. Sources include undercooked liquid or moist food that has been handled by an infected person. The onset of symptoms occurs 1 to 7 days after eating and can include stomach cramps, diarrhea, fever, and vomiting. Once a person has this infection, the individual is not likely to get infected with that specific type again for at least several years. Staphylococcus aureus causes staphylococcal food poisoning. Food workers who carry this kind of bacteria and handle food without washing their hands can cause contamination. Other sources include meat and poultry, egg products, cream-filled pastries, tuna, potato and macaroni salad, and foods left unrefrigerated for long periods of time. Symptoms can begin 30 minutes to 8 hours after eating and include diarrhea, vomiting, nausea, stomach pain, and cramps. This food infection usually lasts 1 to 2 days. The bacteria Vibrio vulnificus can cause an infection similar to cholera. It's found in raw oysters and other kinds of seafood. Symptoms can begin anywhere from 6 hours to a few days after consumption. Symptoms include chills, fever, nausea, and vomiting. This disease is very dangerous and can result in death, especially in people with underlying health problems. Viruses. Hepatitis A is one of the more well-known food-contaminating viruses. Sources include raw shellfish from polluted water and food handled by an infected person. At first, symptoms include malaise, loss of appetite, nausea, vomiting, and fever. 3 to 10 days later, however, additional symptoms can manifest, including jaundice and darkened urine. Severe cases of hepatitis A can result in liver damage and death. The most common form of contamination from handled foods is the norovirus. Sources include raw shellfish from polluted water, salads, sandwiches, and other ready-to-eat foods handled by an infected person. The norovirus causes gastroenteritis, and within 1 to 3 days it leads to symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, stomach pain, headache, and a low-grade fever. Parasitic protozoa, also called parasites, can also cause foodborne illnesses. Food-contaminating parasites are microscopic organisms that may be spread in food and water. Anisakis are microscopic worms that invade the stomach or the intestines. Sources of this worm include raw fish. Cryptosporidium lives in the intestines of infected animals. Another common source is drinking water. Giardia lamblia is another parasite that's found in contaminated drinking water. Toxoplasma gondii causes the infection toxoplasmosis, which is a leading cause of death attributed to foodborne illness in the U.S. Sources include raw or undercooked meat and unwashed fruits and vegetables. Mold toxins. Molds are microscopic fungi that live on animals and plants. Foods that contain mold may also have bacteria growing alongside it. Some molds, like the kind found in blue cheese, are desirable in foods, while other molds can be dangerous. Mycotoxins are the natural poisonous substances that can make you sick if consumed. It's not the molds that make you sick, it's the mycotoxins that the molds produce. The Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations estimates that mycotoxins affect 25% of the world's food crops. The most dangerous toxins produced by mold are aflatoxins. These are produced by mold called Aspergillus. Aflatoxins can cause aflatoxicosis in humans, livestock, and domestic animals. Symptoms include vomiting and abdominal pain. Possible complications include liver failure, liver cancer, and even death. Many countries try to limit exposure to aflatoxins by monitoring their presence on food and feed products. One thing to note, though, is that most people who get sick from aflatoxins do so by exposure to water-damaged buildings, not so much to food. Just like molds, mushrooms are also fungi, and the poisonous kind produces mycotoxins as well. These can also cause food intoxication. Toxic mushrooms, known as toadstools, can cause severe vomiting and other symptoms. However, only a few varieties are fatal. Toxic mushrooms cannot be made safe by cooking, freezing, canning, or processing. The only way to avoid food intoxication is to refrain from eating them. Pesticides are used in food production to control diseases, weeds, insects, and other pests. They protect crops and ensure a large yield. Synthetic pesticides can leave behind residues, particularly on produce, that can be harmful to human health. Foods that contain the highest levels of pesticide residue include conventionally grown peaches, apples, bell peppers, celery, nectarines, strawberries, cherries, pears, spinach, lettuce, and potatoes. That includes the sweet potato. The best way to avoid pesticides in these foods is to buy them organic. Foods that contain the lowest levels of pesticide residue include avocados, pineapples, bananas, mangoes, asparagus, cabbage, and broccoli. In many cases, the amount of pesticide exposure is too small to pose a risk. Harmful exposures can lead to certain health problems and complications, including cancer. Infants and young children are more susceptible to the hazards of pesticides than adults. Many farmers now rely on alternatives to synthetic pesticide use, including crop rotation, natural pesticides, and planting non-food crops nearby to lure pests away. Organic foods are grown or produced without synthetic pesticides or fertilizer, and all growers and processors must be certified by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Pollutants are another kind of chemical contaminant that can make food harmful. Dioxins are chemical compounds created in industrial processes, such as manufacturing and bleaching pulp and paper. Dioxin exposure has been linked to cancer. When metals contaminate food, it can result in serious and even life-threatening health problems. A common metal contaminant is lead, which can be present in drinking water, soil, and air. Methylmercury occurs naturally in the environment, and it's also produced by human activities. This highly toxic metal can cause mercury poisoning, which leads to developmental problems in children as well as autoimmune effects. Pcbs, or polychlorinated biphenyls, are man-made organic compounds that are used commercially. Most often you hear of them being used in plastics. Health effects include developmental and neurological problems in children, and this compound is potentially a carcinogen. Most foodborne infections go unreported and undiagnosed. Even so, the CDC estimates that about 76 million people in the United States become ill from foodborne pathogens or other agents every year. In North America, a number of government agencies, including the CDC, the FDA, the USDA, and Health Canada, work to educate the public about food infections and intoxications, prevent the spread of disease, and quell any major problems or outbreaks. The USDA and the FDA enforce laws regarding the safety of domestic and imported food. In addition, the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938 gives the FDA authority over food ingredients. Other government agencies that play a role in protecting the public include the Food Safety and Inspection Service, the Agricultural Research Service, the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and the EPA. The EPA and the FDA also monitor the use of pesticides. The Food Quality Protection Act, which was passed in 1996, requires manufacturers to show that pesticide levels are safe for children. In Canada, Health Canada works with local governments, industries, and consumers to establish food safety throughout the nation. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency enforces the safety policies and standards set by Health Canada. The Hazard Analysis Critical Control Points, or HACCP, is a system within the food industry designed to promote food safety and prevent contamination by identifying all areas in food production and retail where contamination could occur. The USDA requires the food industry to follow HACCP for meat and poultry, while the FDA requires it for seafood, low-acid canned food, and juice. So what can you do? Consumers can also take steps to prevent foodborne illness and protect their health. The four most important steps for handling, preparing, and serving food are 1. Clean, 2. Separate, 3. Cook, and 4. Chill. It's best to buy your food from reputable grocers with clean, sanitary facilities that keep products at appropriate temperatures. Consumers should examine food carefully before they purchase it. Fresh meat and poultry are usually free from mold, but cured and cooked meats should be examined carefully. Also, avoid torn, crushed, or open food packages, and don't buy food with frost or ice crystals. Avoid bruised fruit. It's also a good idea to keep meat, poultry, seafood, and eggs separate from other items in your shopping cart as you move through the grocery store. Refrigerate perishable foods quickly. They shouldn't be left out for more than 2 hours. The refrigerator should be kept at 40 degrees Fahrenheit or colder and checked periodically with a thermometer. Wrap meat packages tightly and store them at the bottom of the refrigerator so juices won't leak out onto other foods. Raw meat, poultry, and seafood should be kept in a refrigerator for only 2 days. Be sure to consume leftovers within 3 to 5 days so mold doesn't have a chance to grow. When preparing food, wash hands thoroughly with warm soapy water for at least 20 seconds before preparing food and every time after handling raw foods. Fresh fruits and vegetables should also be rinsed thoroughly under running water to clean off pesticide residue. Washing also removes most dirt and bacteria from the surface of produce. Defrost meat, poultry, and seafood in the refrigerator, microwave, or in a watertight plastic bag submerged in cold water. Room temperature is an ideal temperature for bacteria to grow. Always use clean cutting boards, which should be washed with soap and water by hand or in a dishwasher after each use. Wash the top before opening canned foods to prevent dirt from coming into contact with food. Cooked food is safe to eat only after it's been heated to a temperature that's high enough to kill bacteria. You can't judge the state of cooked by color and texture alone. Use a food thermometer to be sure. The appropriate minimum cooking temperature varies depending on the type of food. When microwaving, rotate the dish and stir the contents several times to ensure even cooking. Hot food should be kept above the safe temperature of 140 degrees Fahrenheit using a heat source such as a chafing dish, warming tray, or slow cooker. Cold foods should be kept at 40 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. When serving food, keep it covered to block exposure to any mold spores hanging in the air. Use plastic wrap to cover foods that you want to remain moist, such as fresh fruits, vegetables, and salads. After a meal, don't keep leftovers at room temperature for more than 2 hours. Adopting sustainable practices can go a long way toward helping you achieve optimal health, while also helping to protect the health of our planet. Sustainability involves meeting present nutritional needs while preserving resources for the future. Ideally, sustainable practices include methods that are healthy, conserve the environment, protect livestock, respect food industry workers, provide fair wages to farmers, and support farming communities. Utilizing an environmentally friendly approach to good nutrition is a great way to remain and stay healthy. As an initial step, you might try to buy more whole foods rather than processed foods. You might also drink more water rather than sodas and juices with added sugar. Other suggestions to live a more sustainable life include learn more about food, eat a plant-based diet, support local farmers, join a community garden, help spread the word, or sign up for community-supported agriculture. Living a sustainable lifestyle and achieving optimal health is not easy. While creating and implementing change is not easy, the more conscious you are of the process and the more you prepare, the greater the chances are for success. Learning about the different stages of behavioral change can help you take a proactive approach to living a sustainable lifestyle. The Transtheoretical model of behavior change identifies the 5 stages of change, along with things that can help people move through these different stages. It also includes strategies to help people make, create, and continue behavior change. The 5 stages are pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. Adopting a healthier lifestyle requires changes not only in behavior, but also in attitude and perception. The Transtheoretical model calls them decisional balance and self-efficacy. Decisional balance means a person has realized that the benefits of making healthy changes outweigh any risks. Self-efficacy means a person has self-belief and the confidence to make and maintain positive changes. The theoretical model of behavioral change also includes 10 techniques and strategies for bringing about change: consciousness raising, dramatic relief, environmental reevaluation, social liberation, self-liberation, helping relationships, counter-conditioning, reinforcement management, stimulus control, and self-reevaluation. Combining knowledge of the change process with the effective use of strategies can help everyone turn their good intentions into healthier lifestyles. Both dietitians and nutritionists provide nutrition-related services to people in the private and public sectors. A dietitian is a healthcare professional who has registered credentials and can provide nutritional care in the areas of health and wellness for both individuals and groups. A nutritionist is an unregistered professional who may have the credentials of a dietitian or they've acquired the knowledge via other avenues. People in both professions work to apply nutritional science using evidence-based best practices to help people nourish their bodies and improve their lives. Becoming a registered dietitian requires a bachelor's or master's degree in dietetics, including courses in biology, chemistry, biochemistry, microbiology, anatomy and physiology, nutrition, and food service management. To become a registered dietetic technician, you must complete a dietetic technician program that involves supervised practice. 47 states have licensure requirements for registered dietitians and nutritionists. Dietitians and nutritionists plan food and nutrition programs, promote healthy eating habits, and recommend dietary modifications. Some individuals work in the government, while others are solely in the private sector. Some jobs in nutrition focus on working with athletes, while others provide guidance to patients with long-term, life-threatening diseases. Nutritionists and dietitians who work for the government may become involved with federal food programs, federal agencies, communication campaigns, or creating and analyzing public policy. On the local level, clinical careers include working in hospitals and nursing care facilities. Nutrition jobs in the community often involve working in public health clinics, cooperative extension offices, and HMOs to prevent disease and promote the health of the local community. Nutrition jobs in the nonprofit world involve anti-hunger organizations, public health organizations, and activist groups. They can also find employment opportunities in advertising, marketing, and food manufacturing. Consultant careers can include working in wellness programs, supermarkets, physicians' offices, gyms, and weight loss clinics. Nutrition careers in the corporate world include designing wellness strategies and nutrition components for companies, working as representatives for food or supplement companies, designing marketing and educational campaigns, and becoming lobbyists. There are employment opportunities in farm management, marketing and sales, compliance, finance, and land surveying and appraisal. Good health allows you to function normally and work hard to pursue your goals, yet achieving optimal health cannot be underestimated. Scientific evidence provides the basis for dietary guidelines and recommendations. Researchers in the field of nutrition work to advance our knowledge of food production and distribution. The findings that are uncovered today will influence not only what we eat, but how we grow it, distribute it, prepare it, and even enjoy it tomorrow.